Hey everybody. So today I wanted to talk about something that everybody on the entire planet needs, and most of us need a lot more of: sleep. During this crisis, it's kind of crazier than normal with not getting enough sleep. We're worried about our jobs and our economics, right? Our livelihood, our finances. We're worried about our health and do we talk to this person? Do we talk to that person? Do we get too close to this person? Do we touch the same items that somebody else touched? So much to stress out over. And then of course, a lot of you are very guilty of watching constant reports on where we are globally in this virus pandemic. That stuff can keep anybody awake. And then of course, if you are a family who has either yourself or somebody in the family has a disability or some type of health concern, it just magnifies it times 1,000. And so many of us are not getting enough sleep. And you guys know, if you don't get enough sleep, you're basically a fairly unhappy, edgy person. And if ever there was a time to decrease your edginess, it would be now, just having to deal with all the challenges of everybody being in the home at the same time, 24/7. That could be enough to drive everybody over the deep end. So I'm gonna give you guys a couple tips on sleeping. And believe me, I come from experience. I am not a good sleeper. My brain has a really hard time calming down at the end of the day. And so I'm guilty. And so I need these things too. So I hope that maybe you can take some benefit from some of the things that I suggest. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing is kind of like a no-brainer, but from 3 o'clock on for the day, no caffeine, no chocolate, no sodas, no coffee, of course. Alcohol is kind of interesting because even though it's a depressant, it still can increase some people's inability to fall asleep. So you gotta be really careful about that. Some people think, oh, I'm just gonna have a shot of something before I go to bed. That doesn't work for everybody, so you want to pay attention to that. Same thing with different types of medications. Sometimes there are medications that do the opposite of what they were intended to do. For instance, a lot of people can take different types of sinus medication and it will knock them out. Not me. You give me one, it just keeps me awake. So just be cognizant of your own internal mechanisms, that some things that work for some people may not for others. There are a lot of people who have found really good results with melatonin. I have not, but I hear people swear by it. So just be mindful of it, play around with how much, talk to people who are out there, nutritionists who might have greater information when it comes to things like melatonin and some other things that you might find in a health food store or where they sell supplements, okay? So that's the first thing. You definitely want to decrease your amount of stimulants, which caffeine is the biggest one. Okay, so the next one is try to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time the next day. Since a lot of us are kind of flying, and not necessarily on a specific schedule, I think a lot of us are finding ourselves staying in bed longer in the morning, especially when you can check your emails and respond to texts, emails, social media from your bed. I think that a lot of us just stay there. And so when you're getting up late, you're naturally going to be going to bed late at night because your body's it's out of its cycle, its rhythm, and it's not gonna be ready for sleep if you stay in bed till 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. So try to have a normal schedule for both yourself and your children to where you're getting up at about the same time, you're going to sleep at the same time every day, and that will sort of set your internal clock to doing just that. Also, you can have your blinds, if you have blinds in your room, open just a crack so that the morning sun comes in and naturally stimulates your rhythm that it's time to wake up. If you are a person who sleeps with the shades drawn, then your body's gonna think it's still dark, it's still time to sleep, and you might have a really hard time waking up in the morning. The other thing that you don't want to engage in at night is blue screen. So you know what I'm talking about, technology. And I think most people that I know are very guilty of having their phone or their tablet in their lap as they crawl into bed at night, and then they spend an hour, 2 hours. Sometimes the time just flies by because you're so caught up in checking up on your social media that you don't realize what time it is. Next thing you know, you're looking at the clock and it's 3 a.m. So be very mindful of social media and blue screens before you go to sleep at night, because there's tons of studies out there that tell us that we should not be doing that when we go to bed. If you are like me and you go into bed and you lay there and you kind of stare at the ceiling for a while, there really is not a point in just laying there and trying to will yourself to sleep and not getting up. A lot of times what's happening is your brain is stuck on something and you keep reliving it or perseverating on it. You're going over and over and over again. And sometimes the only thing that's going to break that is to actually get up and get out. So get up out of bed, do something nonsensical, like something that doesn't really require much thought. I don't know, laundry, if you went to bed and half the laundry was done, or maybe there's some dishes that maybe you washed the dishes but you didn't put them away. You could do that, clean the bathroom, just something physical if possible that just kind of gets you moving, but not too much, because you don't want to stimulate your overall body, right? You don't want to stimulate your system, but you do want to do something that is going to use just enough brain power that you're going to need your brain, but not enough to where it's going to consume it and have you thinking about something else. Okay. There are some really cool podcasts out there, or even like some YouTube channels, and I'll post some up over here so that you'll be able to see some of the ones that I like. They basically just, self-meditation in the evening. You can put your headphones on while you lay in bed. Really, it's to do with the breathing and just really getting into a moment and literally feeling your body relax as you work up from your feet all the way up to the top of your head. And so many times when my body is tired, but my brain keeps going, that's all I need. And like halfway through it, I'm already falling asleep. And I have to catch myself. I'm like, oh, I'm excited. I was actually starting to fall asleep. And of course, then I shut it off. But those are really great. So I'm going to list some of those here so that you guys can see some of the ones that I like. And you can try them out. You never know. Get ready for bed before you turn the lights off. So as everybody's asleep, hopefully, everybody's in your home, is comfortably in bed. If you have pets, the pet's all taken care of. The dishes are done, whatever it is that your normal routine is, everything is completed. So that as you shut the kitchen light, you shut the hallway light, you shut the bathroom light, it's sort of a process, and you follow that same process every evening. You get into bed and you can lay there and not have to go, oh, did I shut the light? Did I do this? Did I do that? Oh my goodness, I think I forgot that. And then you end up just jumping out of bed 5 times. If you're one of the people that needs to make a list, if you're a list person, make a list of the things that you need to do every night before you go to bed, especially if you find yourself crawling into bed and going, oh, I forgot. Make yourself a list and use that as your checkoff list before you crawl into bed. That way, your brain isn't having to go over that checklist of did I do this and did I do that. If you are somebody who's very temperature driven, so maybe you're hot and you just run hot all the time, or you run cold all the time. If you run cold, have socks on your feet, or maybe have them next to you. If you run hot, maybe you make sure the ceiling fan is on, or drop the temperature if you can. Because, if there's other humans in your house, of course, you could be altering the temperature for the entire family. But I know for me, if I'm too hot or too cold, there's no sleep happening. So if that's you, again, in advance, kind of prepare for that. And then if you have a thermometer like mine, you're freezing 1 minute and you're hot the next, and then it just keeps going back and forth. So, I literally have to be prepared for either way. So the socks thing usually works for me. I use a sheet and a comforter, so I can throw off the comforter and only use the sheet, or I can bring the comforter back on when I get too cold. Exercise. Exercise is huge. So I'll do another video on exercising, but exercise is so massive. It is so good for so many things. So try to carve out a point during the day, and it could literally be every day, maybe just 15 to 20 minutes every day or every other day. I tend to exercise every other day, and my exercise routine is usually about an hour long, an hour and 15 minutes long, and it's every other day. Of course, things have changed now that I'm homebound. I do not have a gym in my house, so I had to kind of regroup and create an exercise system for myself that continue to work on the cardio, continue to work on some muscle maintenance, but I can use my own body's resistance, my weight resistance, to do some exercises, walking, running, really good stuff, and will really help you with your body being able to relax. If you are a napper, If you enjoy an afternoon nap, then you have to be prepared that nighttime's going to be more difficult for you. Because if your body only needs 8 hours of sleep in the 24 hours and you consume 2 hours of it during the day, then I would suspect that your body's only going to need 6 hours at night. So just be mindful of napping and what that does to your sleep cycle in the evening. And then the last thing I have is, if you are somebody who lays in bed and thinks and plans and plots about what you need to do the next day, and you just can't stop it. Your mind literally has a mind of its own. Then get up, grab a piece of paper and a pen, make a list of the things that you are basically afraid that if you don't sit there and really think about it, you're gonna forget it. So then you spend too much time thinking, oh, I have to remember this, I have to remember this. Don't do that. Get out of bed, write things down, and I'm telling you, when you get back into bed, you're gonna feel so much better, because you're gonna know, okay, I don't need to sit here and keep thinking about it because I wrote it down. And I could look at my list in the morning and I can either cross them off and say, what was I thinking? Or I could say, yeah, I need to accomplish that today. So I hope that you guys find some value in some of these tips, because, you know, when we don't sleep, we affect our overall health. Our immune system needs us to sleep. So sleeping, eating, exercising, socializing as much as you can through social distancing, through social media, through platforms like this one, making sure that you make those connections with other humans. Those are the things that, for one, make life worth living, and for two, keep us healthy and prepared for tomorrow. So stay safe, stay healthy, and get some good sleep.